Hi, everybody. This is Brett Murphy. I'm here to present to you the options to upgrade Technica's IBMI environment and Lowa's AIX environment. And I have a couple different options that I've pulled different pieces of information together to be able to show you what those options are. We'll start with the quote. In the quote, you'll see different tabs down at the bottom, and each tab is going to represent a possible solution. The first three tabs kind of go together. You're going to see them labeled as S1012-1, S1012-2, S1012-3. Two of those are for IBMI, the other one is for AIX. And that would be if you wanted to go with a discrete on-premises solution to upgrade and replace the current systems. They're going to look very similar to what you currently have, except they'll be using the latest technology. The fourth option on here is going to be an S1012-2X, and the 2X is simply saying that this is a consolidation of the two IBMI systems over here. And then the S1122 with the 3X is going to be an indication that it's a consolidation of the two IBMI Technica systems and the one Lowa AIX system on here. So I'll go through this here and kind of show you kind of what we're talking about. So to start off with, if we just look at the current systems, your current systems that you have for Lowa is going to be in Power 8, 8286, 41A. And this is going to be a fairly old server. As a matter of fact, looks like this server was purchased back in probably in early 2017. You can see right here it was installed in 2000 and March 30th of 2017 is when it was installed. So it was probably purchased in the January, February timeframe. It was built and delivered, and then it auto installs by IBM's records within about 2 weeks of once it ships. So it's telling me it's sometime in probably early 2017. Very basic system, 16 gig of memory, 4 core, just two 300 gig hard drives, spinning disk for data storage, has a graphics accelerator card, two Ethernet adapters, each one with 4 ports that are one gig speeds, and then it's running AIX on here. We look at the first Technica system, and that Technica system is going to look similar, except it's a Power 9 system, a 900941A, and it was installed, it was bought somewhere in the probably April, May timeframe, and then installed in the June 21st of 2019 timeframe. This one is going to have 16 gig of memory, a 4 core processor. It has 6 by 283 gigabyte drives. Can't tell specifically from this what that configuration is. Is that RAID 5? Is that RAID 6? Does that include a hot spare? Just can't tell from here. So I'm going to go off the assumption that it is RAID 5. So I lose one drive for parity, and then there's a hot spare in there as well. So that's going to leave me about, one a little over 1 terabyte worth of usable storage that will be factored into the replacement option. There's a DVD player. It has factory deconfiguration of 1 core called feature code 2319, three of those. That just simply means that we're going to take the 4 core processor and we're just going to essentially turn down three of them and only make one available to the OS. What it's really going to do is help drive down cost later on down here when it comes to Power VM maintenance. So this item right here. So it's just a way to help us lower cost during the initial acquisition and ongoing ownership of it as well. This one will also have just a single 4 port 1 gig Ethernet adapter. And this does use a system console LAN adapter for systems management. There is no HMC on here. We drop down into the software section, just a couple things that I'm interested in. Right away, I see that you've got BRMS. That's something I need to consider. This is moving towards a subscription, so this will not transfer over. I will have to add a subscription to the proposed system, and you'll see how that is done here. I want to get to the quote. I come on down, I'm looking now for the SS1s. What I'm looking here on this particular system is that I see feature code 6000 has one license, there's just one of them. And then down here for this feature code 6398, this one has unlimited users. So that means no matter how many OS licenses I have, I can have as many users on here as I want. So that's a great option to have. And we're going to take advantage of that during a conversion process because IBM has also moved the OS license from a perpetual to a subscription model, and then they're going to provide you with a one-time conversion if your current environment has not only a perpetual license, but active software maintenance. So that's going to be helpful here and help save some money. And then the next thing I'm looking at is the rational development users here, seen here in 5770-WDS. And the key ones are here 15, 15, 15. This tells me that you have 15 of the application development, 15 of the ILE compilers, and 15 of the heritage compilers. You can kind of see the names up here a little bit better, but the quantities that I'm focused on are going to be right here. By the way, these are going to be the this is the LPP. This is called a licensed program product, and this is the one that's going to be one we're going to pay attention to whenever I provide the cloud quote, because this one can have a lot of cost associated with it. And you'll see how we're able to keep those costs down and allow you to only pay for what you're going to consume instead of having excess capacity. If I look at the other IBMI system for Technica, we're going to see it's going to look very similar, right? It was purchased about, if not the exact same time. It also has a SAS tape adapter for tape backup. It has 16 gig of memory, a 4-core processor. It has the same number of internal storage drives. It has a DVD player. It has the same factory deconfiguration, so I'm just going to have one active core. It's system console, Ethernet, LAN adapter managed. I have one 4-port, 1 gig Ethernet adapter in there. And as I come down here, right away, I see this is a TS2260 tape drive. I do just see one of them here. I did not see one on the other system. Well, let's go ahead and scroll back over there and just see. Yeah, so I would typically expect to see it between the system and the first sign of software, and I don't. So I'm just seeing it over here on this other system. And the one thing about this is this system, even though it came out, you guys bought it in 2019. This is, 10-year-old technology. At this point, this is, coming up on 7 years of consumption. These are very durable devices, meaning that they are, they consume and they wear out, right? And so as because of that, I'm going to be recommending a TS2290 to replace this. Now, we'll actually be able to keep this in place. We'll be able to use it to read old tape drives, old tape cartridges, and things like that. But we will not rely on it for future upgrades going forward for this system. I've just had too many clients with, at this point, 6, 7, 8 year old tape drives, and they start to fail on you. And I can guarantee you the time that they fail on you is when you're going to go put a tape in there and try to restore it. That's when you find out that you no longer have a valid or you have a corrupt tape media. But anyway, so you'll see that in here as well. Other than that, I'm going to have similar software. I'm going to have a BRMS. I'm going to scroll on down here, wait for this to refresh. I'm going to have the OS on here, feature code 6000. And one of the things I want you to notice here is I've got two SS1s. So this is the feature code for the OS. Something to note here is that this one says I've got quantity 7 of 5 users. And then down here, I've got quantity 1 of 5 users. So for a total, that's quantity 8 of 5 users or 40 users. What did the other system have? It had unlimited users. You're going to see here in a second why I'm switching from 40 to unlimited on this system, and it's actually going to save money. And then we have something called external access. This is just a special indicator here that adds a little bit of cost and capability for this one. And that's something that we'll want to make sure gets transferred over to the new system. And then from a rational standpoint, we've got 5 users on here. Now, from an on-prem to an on-prem system, I can transfer these over at no cost, so that's good. Remember, where am I worried about this? Only going into the cloud. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to put this behind us. Now let's jump up here to the first quote. So for the first quote for the Technica system, we're looking at serial number B0. And I'll show you, here's my factory deconfiguration of 1 core. I've got 3. And this is based on a 4-core server. So this is going to be a direct discrete replacement of this current system. It's going to have 1 core that's going to be active. I'm going to have 32 gigs of memory right here. Why 32 gigs instead of 16? Because 32 is the minimum that I can put into here. Plus, as the systems are growing, in terms of the OS versions from 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, we're seeing they are consuming a little bit more. So having a little bit more memory in here is going to be helpful. If I come on up here, I see this one is also going to use system console LAN adapter. So that's how it's going to be. The system's going to be managed. We've got shipping on here. IBM has changed up how they're doing that. That's a no discount fixed price item for this server. We've got our power supplies. We can see I've got two 800 watt, 100 volt, 200 volt, 120, 240 volt power supplies in here. I do have a SAS adapter in here. It's somewhere I've skipped over it. I see the SAS cable here. Here's my SAS adapter. This is my SAS cable. This is going to connect to my new TS2290, and I'll be able to use the same adapter to also connect up to the TS2260, so that again I can access that tape drive and the media that would go into there as well. I've got my one 4-port 1 gig Ethernet adapter. And I think this is one more thing. And I've got two 1.6 terabyte drives. So the options that I have here in this model of server, which is a Power 10 server, is going to be either 800 gig, 1.6 terabyte, 3.2 terabyte, or 6.4 terabyte. I've got some other constraints in here, but that doesn't matter at this point. What's important is your current system has about 1.1, obviously bigger than 800 gigs, less than 1.6 terabytes. We only have an option to do mirroring in Power 10 and Power 11. So I've chosen two of these, which will give us, plenty of capacity that you need, not only for the current workload, but, at least 50% growth, if not more. I don't think you're going to need it, but I'm just pointing that out. We do have the DVD in here, and this one does come with 5 years of warranty and what they call advanced care. And I've already talked to Cliff about why the 5 years specifically. I'll point that out to you here a little bit more as we get into the software section. So total cost for this one is $22,341 list price, discounted price $19,166. This one should be the exact same as the second system over here. There's really no change, no difference between the two from a hardware standpoint. As we come into the software section, right away we see this is a subscription cost. Now, I just want to point out that, in a lot of ways, we're going to see this would show up in a different part on a spreadsheet compared to what you would have before. Before you would have software maintenance, and that would show up in a maintenance category. This shows up as a subscription cost, and it's going to be based upon the tier or the term. I can go with 3 year, 4 year, or 5 year. But the other thing is, if your current system has a perpetual license with active SWAMA, then we also can do what we call a conversion. So IBM is going to give you credit in their system as it prices this. And it's only going to do it one time, right? So if we went with 3 years, then you would get a credit for 3 years, and then at renewal time, your renewal cost would be higher because you're now going to pay the full price of the subscription versus the conversion price for that. And so we like to maximize that for the full term that I can in the configurator, which in this case is going to be 5 years. You notice that I'm able to then utilize unlimited users. Unlimited users is 89.89. And I'm going to point this out here in a second why, this is just one of those anomalies of how IBM's pricing system is. You're going to see that the other system, which had 40 users, is going to be more than double the cost of this, right? So it's just one of those odd anomalies. 60 here tells us this is a 5 year subscription. This is for OS media. This is typically we want to have physical hard copy media there for the system. And then I've got BRMS here for a 5 year or 60-month subscription term as well. And that's the cost for that. Then we have the no cost transfer for rational development right here. And then this is our Power VM. It's built into the system. I can't take it out as part of it. It's just a software maintenance, but it's only one. And the reason it's only one is because I have factory deconfiguration of 3. If I didn't have this up here, then this would be 4. And that factory deconfiguration of right here, 1 core times quantity 3, it's no cost, right? So no cost, I apply it, reduces this to 1. Otherwise, that number would be what, $2,800, $2,900 for the 4 systems. So it's just a way to take costs out of the system, which is good. So my total cost, coming here so far is going to be what, about 42,000, right, for this. I'm going to drop on down here and I'm going to look at the TS2290. TS2290 is going to be an LTO9 tape drive. It's going to have its own shelf. It's going to come with one cleaning cartridge. It's going to come with one 5-pack of LTO9 media cartridges, power cord, SAS adapter. It's going to come with shipping, and it's going to come with 5 years of support. That comes to 10,346. So our total solution price for the server, software, and tape is going to be 51,437. Services for this is going to be, I have an engineer there, typically shows up on a Thursday afternoon or a Friday morning. He's going to rack and stack. He's going to configure. He's going to either help you with your backups or do your backups on your current systems. Make sure that you got everything ready to go there. He's going to prepare the new system. He's going to, you know, um, lay down the new OS. He's going to do the restore. He's going to apply the PTFs, apply the security, restore the data, do all the other configuration requirements. And he's going to do that over the weekend. And then he's going to be there on Monday morning. So when the system goes live, users start to hit the box. You've got somebody that's there. So if you've got a profile or something, or jobs aren't starting, or whatever, you don't have to worry about, can I get the guy on the phone in order to do something? We're going to have somebody that's actually going to be there to do it. So total price for just the one system, 58,437. That's a 5-year all-in number. Now, if we look at the second system here, I'm going to point out again, it's almost all the same, right? What's going to be different? What's going to be different is right here, this right here. So before I had this number in here, and Cliff saw this number, if I would have gone with the 40 users, if I stayed with the 40 users, this number was 18,000 something. That's crazy, right? You would think that somewhere in the logic of the tool, it would recognize 40 users is less than unlimited, and it is, by their definition. But for whatever reason, the cost of it, right, is going to be more. So I just switched this to an unlimited user. It drops the cost down quite a bit. And beyond that, it's going to look very similar to the other system. I'm going to have the OS media. I'm going to have the BRMS subscription cost, the Power VM cost. And at this point, we're sitting here at the exact same cost as the other one, except for I've got that external access cost of $899 up here, right? That's why this number, 9888, is just a little bit different than this one right here. It's just because of that external access that was on that second system, and that cost is reflected right there. I keep pointing to list, but the extended cost is right there. Okay. We bring it down here to the tape. We look at the tape. We've got the services. And then, this one's going to come to 59,175. So, we're sitting here between these two systems, and, we're right at 120,000 for these two systems. We then move over to the discrete system for the AIX environment. This will be for Lowa. And and again, I'm building all these off of the S1012 server, which I'll talk about here in just a second. We're going to again see that I've got a 4-core server. I'm using factory configuration of 3 cores. I have 32 gig of memory, but this time I have two 4-port 1 gig Ethernet adapters. They're inexpensive. They're $350 a piece. If you don't need two of them, then we can take, one of them out, right? I don't know why you guys have only one in your IBM but you have two over here. It's not a big deal. If you wanted to keep them or wanted to take them out. The other thing we have is we have two 1.6 terabyte drives. You've only got two 300 gig drives in your system, but I just wanted you to see over here that when I come into the configuration tool, I would like to find what would have been the 800 gig drives. It's not offering it to me, right? So here's my configurator. I just want you to see that preferably I would have 800 gig drives here. It's not, so this cost is a little bit more than I'd like to see. It is what it is based upon IBM's tool for configuration. Everything else is going to look, similar to the IBM I systems. Our cost is just a little bit less because we don't have things like a SAS adapter in here, which does beg the question, how do you want to back this system up? Because I don't have, if you look at, the current system over here, this thing uses an RDX tape drive in order to back this up. I don't have those kind of options now in Power 10 and Power 11. So, we have to look to see what would you want to do. I could put a SAS adapter in here. We could back this up to tape. Actually have, another idea. We could, back this up to cloud object storage in the cloud pretty cost efficiently and effectively, actually very cost effectively. So anyway, I just want to point that out that I don't have, that backup option on here. Here's my AIX license. Here's my AIX software maintenance for 5 years. And then here's my Power VM software maintenance for 1 year. Total price for the AIX solution to upgrade, $23,922. This one is going to be $4,000 in services. Costs for this are going to be, a lot less time consuming and things like that. And I'll say this also. If I had somebody that came up here and was doing this over the same weekend. These costs will probably come down a little bit because I've got efficiencies of scale by having somebody there. I don't have some of the same travel costs and things like that. But I just want to point that out that these are based upon doing them separately, distinctly, and things like that. So that's that one. So that's the cost for the three discrete systems. Now I want to get into the consolidated system real quick. So the consolidated system says that I'm going to consolidate the two IBM environments, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it on the exact same S1012 server that I had before, but here's what I'm going to do different. I'm simply going to double the memory to 64 gig. I'm simply going to double internal storage to quantity 4, where I'll have two 1.6s to the one environment and the other two 1.6s to the other environment. I'm going to have two SAS adapters, one for each environment for backup, and I'm going to have two Ethernet adapters, right? One for each one to have their own network connectivity. Beyond that, I'm now consolidating, right? Consolidating both of these options here, the S1012-1 and S1012-2, into one box. Okay. So over here, what was the cost of a single box? Single box was 19,000. Over here, I've consolidated both and I'm in at 27,888. Right. So, for 50% more cost, I'm consolidating both systems into here. Now, when we look at the software, I want to point this out. This here, we got the same subscription, we got the same unlimited users that we're bringing over from the one system, 5 year term. Got my media, got my BRMS, got my rational, and by the way, I technically can also transfer the other, system as well. So that's not a big deal at all. That's all done at no cost. And I've got, in this case, two licenses for Power VM because I'm assuming that I'm going to use two cores for this workload. Do I think I need two cores? I don't. I'm going to come to that in a second. So I just want to point this out. I've got two subscriptions here for this. What does this cost? This cost is simply double the cost of what we'd have here. You would have this today with your discrete systems, right? 14,373. That's all this is. This says if I simply bring both of those over and run them over here and I give them each, their own dedicated core for their environment. But as you can see here, I've got a note that says I think you can run this with just one OS license, and you're going to be fine, right? Well, let's start with some math and science here. I'm going to skip over to this last tab that I created for you, and let's look at the performance numbers that IBM assigns to these systems. CPW is used for IBM I. RPerf is used for AIX. So let's just start with AIX since it's at the top. The lowest system, it's an S814. It has four cores. We're proposing an S1012, also with four cores. The RPerf value, which is IBM's relative performance for a four-core Power 8 S814 using SMT8. Okay, I should put that up here, so I'm going to say, let's put it right here. So let's do SMT8, right, like that. And the reason, and let me show you real quick, just so you can see what I'm talking about here. And so if I let me see if I can find it very quickly. If I can't, then I'll continue on. There we go. So if I open this up here, I just want you to see this, that when I look at this, yeah, I see my RPerf values up here. There's SMT 1, 2, 4, and 8. I'm pointing this out to you that if one of you guys went off and did some homework or something like that and found a similar document online, which this is available in what they call the Systems Performance Report, you would see these different columns. And I just wanted you to realize I'm using this column here, SMT8. Okay. So anyway, so 63. The RPER for an S814 with four cores is 63 or 15.75 RPER per core. An S1012 is going to have four cores and it's going to be for 130.4 for the total system for all four cores. And it's going to be um, 32 RPERF. Um, Sorry, I've got to text somebody, tell them that I'm going to be late to the call. It's going to be 32 RPerf per core. What is it? That's 2x the performance. Now, you're hopefully already starting to click in. What's he mean when he says this can be reduced then by half? Exactly. Make that one, make that 14,000. This number is going to come down and drop already, right? And that's even a CPW number, by the way. That was CPW. So let's go ahead and drop down to CPW. Your current S914 with 4 cores has a CPW number of 52,500. There aren't different SMT versions for this, by the way. If you come over here and look, it's just a CPW. This assumes SMT8, just so you know. Okay. But, if I was to look at your Power 9 and I come over here to an S914 with 4 cores, I'd see 52,500. And then we see that on a per core basis, that's 13,125. The S1012 that I'm proposing with 4 cores has CPW of 111,300 or 27,825, which is 2.1x. I've got twice the performance per core, right? Just going from the Power 9 to this Power 10 system. That's pretty significant. And then if we look at just some of the other options that would be out there, the S1014, it's just a hair bit less than the S1012 at 2x. And I'm also going to show you an S1122, and it's at 2.25x, right? Because it comes in at 29,550 CPW per core. So I'm very confident that not only is your system not running at 100% today, it's probably running something at 50% or less, and I'm going to guess or less, right, than that. And then you can combine these two on here, and now you're able to share a single license across multiple LPARs on a consolidated system. And I'm quite confident that we're going to be able to do fine. Here's one last thing on here. Both of these systems, you are using spinning disk drives to to satisfy your performance. A spinning disk is a 1 by 15K HDD, where it is able to do approximately 250 IOPS. And so one IOP is equal to approximately one CPW, right? So what does that tell you? That tells you then if we do the math and we come over here and we say that we've got, 4 systems times 250, we don't even need the calculator for that, do we? Look how poorly I did that math. Let me hit no. I wasn't even paying attention here. Okay, equals 4 times 250, 1,000 CPW. So you're not even coming close to achieving your full potential on your current systems, right? Let alone on what you could do on the new systems. You're going to be fine to have just one license over here. But again, I just wanted you to see it when I come here from this system and that system to here, that there's no, no smoke up my sleeves, no nothing like that, right? So there you go. So that software number is there, but that number could be lower. In this case, I have 2 tape drives because I have 2 environments. Okay, so this cost doubles. Because on a power system, anytime I have multiple VMs on a single box, I need to manage that, and I have to manage it with a hardware management console. So I am adding in some additional costs back into here now. So it's not a free ride, right? So I've got an HMC here with a flat panel console, and that adds in 13,000 for that 1U device. This is for 5 years of maintenance, and it's essentially firmware, but think of it like the software for that system. So all in, we're sitting here at about what, $17,000 for that, but to be able to have these 2 environments share one particular server. Notice we've already got some efficiencies here because I'm assuming we're installing this box at the same time. So I've got 13,000 for the install of these 2 systems along with the HMC, and we're sitting at 115,000 compared to the 120,000. And we already said this number is going to go down because I'm going to take this number down, right? I'm going to cut it in half, right? Matter of fact, if I just go ahead and do it, and let's see, there we go. So we go ahead and do it. This number is now 103,000 compared to these 2 numbers here, which were right at, these were right at 120,000. Okay. So I just wanted you to see that, we're already, right at $20,000 less, 17,000 less. And that's even with the HMC in there. Now, if we go to the S1122-3X, why did I jump to a Power 11 and an S1122 instead of, say, an S1014? Here's the reason why. Um, in an S1012 or in an S1014 in the 4 core model, IBM constrains the box. And then what does that mean? They limit how much capacity that I can have in here. And I'm going to see if I can find that error code in here real quick. But if not, I'll just go into here real quick and I'll show you something. So if I come into here, into this S1012, and I go to the storage, and then all of a sudden I say, you know what, let's just do this. I'm going to add, um, I'm going to add those two. Now we'll add two of those. So I had the two 1.6s that I had before, and I'm going to add two of the 3.2s. Let's see what happens. It should error on me. There you go. The four-core server supports a maximum of 6.4 terabytes of NVMe devices. That means installed, right? So the max I can have would be four of these, or I could have two of these, right? I could have two of the 3.2s. You notice you don't see any 6.4s in here, right? And that's because it's not an option. It would exceed 6.4 terabytes. And so, so what happens is the four-core S1014, I would like to go to that model because it actually has eight internal drive slots, which would support three VMs nicely since I have to mirror everything. But the problem with it is I can't put in more than enough drives to support the two VMs. So I jumped over to the S1112, which also takes me to the next tier. I'm at a P10 tier instead of these other systems being at a P05 tier. Let's talk about what we have here. Okay, so now I'm going to assume that I have three cores that I'm going to use. So I have an 8-core processor down here. I have two of those, two 4-core processors. So I have 8 cores. I have 8 cores active. But I'm going to apply factory deconfiguration of 5, which is going to leave me with 3 active. I have, what do I have next? I have my 64 gig of memory. I'm going to share 64 gig of memory across the 3 environments. I think today they all have 16 gig, right? So 16, 16, and 16 is 48. So if I bump them all up a little bit, make them 20, 20, and 20, right? I still got a little bit, memory left over in there. So I've got that. I have 2 SAS adapters in here. Now I have 10 internal PCIe slots in this server, whereas I only have 4 in the S1012. But plenty of capacity here. I have 2 of the storage back planes, so I have a total of 8 drive slots in here. So I needed to have 2 because I needed to get more than 4. 4 would only be suitable for 2 VMs, right? 2 drives for each VM would be 4. I need 6 drives to accommodate 3 VMs, so that's why I've got that. Then I've got this adapter here, this Ethernet adapter. This is the 2-port Ethernet adapter, and I have 4 10 gig transceivers that will go into there. Now, what I'm doing here is that I could put in 1 gig adapters in here, and that would be fine, right? And maybe that's the way to go. It actually, now that I think about it, since I'm doing it here, it actually would be cheaper, to do that instead of what I'm doing right here. So yeah, I'll update this. So you might see a change here with this one here. But the idea behind this is that these 10 gig transceivers let me take advantage of a technology called SRIOV, single root IO virtualization. And what it would do is I would essentially have 4 of them in there. And in this case, I would have 2 ports. Okay. And I would have 2 ports over here. And what would let me do is that these are essentially managed by the HMC, and when they're managed by the HMC, it lets me carve them up and present them to as many VMs and the servers I want. So I don't have to use something like a virtual IO server. I don't have to have discrete adapters for every VM. I could just go over there and I could just, say, hey, you get 200 megabits and you get 400 megabits. I can determine the quality of service that I want everyone, to get, right? And it's just a virtual network connection that's coming from this adapter with its 2 ports on there. So that's why I had that on there. So this would be the one thing that I would say is a change from what you've seen before, where the other ones will just simply plug in to your current 1 gig network. So I'm assuming with this solution that you're going to have 10 gig ports available. But again, I think I'm just going to go ahead and swap this over to the cheaper 1 gig Ethernet ports, and I'll put in 4 in here, right? So I'll make that 4. This cost will come down and make it even more attractive. So I think I've covered everything in here. Oh, let's look at this real quick. So here's an example, right? Because in this particular server, it allows me to go with the 800 gig drives, right? For this one's going to be for the Lowa, okay? And it's going to be mirrored, right? And this one's going to be for Tecnica, right? Number one. So it's going to have 2 by 1.6 terabyte drives mirrored. And then it's going to have, number two, right? Number two, which would be 2 by 1.6 terabyte drives mirrored as well. So that's what those drives would be used for. Same DVD player, expert care. Now we come down to software. You can see software is quite a bit more than what it was on the PO5, right? But what am I doing? I'm consolidating three boxes. So now my hardware cost goes way down because this is essentially the cost of two boxes. Um, so I'm paying a higher tier level for this. My user cost is actually pretty well almost the same, just a little bit more for that P10 cost. I've got my media cost, my BRMS cost is the same. Here, my transfer, my rational transfers over at no cost. Here's my AIX 7.x licenses. I've got one. Here's my software maintenance. And in this case, here's my Power VM. And I'm even thinking about this now. I could make this two as well. And then that cost, comes down, further as well. So that would come down. We would come up here and make this one factory configuration of six. So I'll make that change on here, and we'll see a little bit lower cost as I change that Ethernet adapter and everything on here. Here I've got the same tape drives. So the tape drives, I've got two of them. I've got my same HMC. I've got services on here because I've got a third environment. It's a little bit more cost to handle the AIX environment. So we go from 13,000 over, up to 16,000. So if we were to add these up, aggregate, right, what do I have? I have, 14 and four. So it's 18,000. Here I was at 13,000 for two environments. I'm at 16,000 for the three environments. So that's the gist of what these solutions look like to give you, do I want discrete? Do I want consolidation? Or do I want full consolidation? Now, if I come over to here, I want you to be able to, and hopefully you can see this. I just clicked don't allow. I don't know if I should have done that, but right here, what we have is that we have I've been proposing this S1012. What is an S1012 server? Well, an S1012 server is two rack units tall and 9.5 inches wide. So if you look at it here, this is what it looks like. Your current server is this size, four rack units tall, right, a little under 8 inches, 19 inches wide. And an S1012 is this. So, potentially for the consolidated server, you would just have one of these. If you wanted to go with discrete servers, you could have two of these for Tecnica. And if you wanted to add the Lowa system on it, right, you'd have three servers on there. It'll look like that. I'll take them off here just because so it doesn't clutter things up. But this gives you an idea, right, of how you also have some space efficiency too. And then the Power 11 S 1122 is a 2U server, 19 inches wide. I didn't have a picture of an 1122, so I used the 1022, but they're going to look just the same. 2U tall, 19 inches wide, and there you go. And then when you look at the server, the the S1012 has four internal drive slots, four PCIe slots. So I'm constrained there, right? Works great for discrete and works great for the 2x consolidation. But if I want to go more, then this is what I have here. In the S1122, I have up to eight internal drive slots on this particular model, and I have 10 PCIe slots in the rear, so plenty of capacity. The S1014, again, I'm limited to, I got the eight drive slots, but I can't use them all because I hit that 6.4 terabyte drive limit, and it only has five PCIe slots in the back, but I lose one for the backplane adapter in here, whereas I don't do that over here. So everything points to the S1012 or the S1122 being the ideal systems that we would have. So I just wanted to kind of show you where they fit in the overall lineup here, right? We've got Power 11. We don't have the Power 11 S1012 out. It's not coming out until later this year. We've got the S1014 right now. There's not going to be a Power 11 version of that. We've got the S1122 and a small. It's available in 8 or 20 cores. I've gone with the 8 core system, and we don't really care about the bigger systems out here. So I'll send this along and you'll have access to all of this information. But in the end, this is what I have for you. Take a look at this. Let me know what your questions are. I hope as you have listened to this that I haven't said too many times. I hope I haven't sped through it too quickly. And this will give you an opportunity to kind of share and discuss amongst yourselves. So thanks a lot. Goodbye.